kind of add to the thing. I'll start recording. So again, good afternoon, everyone. So this is the lecture number 9 of our course Smart Grid. So already we finished 8 lectures, and all these lectures are also recorded and available in the playlist. So briefly, if I summarize, these are the topics what you are seeing on the screen. Introduction, and then India Smart Grid Knowledge Portal, architectural perspectives, roadmap, smart distribution, cost benefit analysis, campus energy monitoring, and some research topics in smart grid. So, of course, I mean, these need not be the only structure for the course, because the smart grid subject itself is like fluid, and there are so many changes that are happening continuously over the years. So every year I try to bring some new component into this particular course. So this year it happens to be that we discovered or discussed about these topics. So finally, today is the ninth session, which I am kind of dedicating for a Q&A session on the smart grid. So as the students, you are aware that I have circulated a Google Sheet and collected some questions. So in this, without any further delay, let's go through these questions one by one, and we'll try to address this. So with that, let's come to the another sheet. So these were the responses which I got. So I hope you're able to see it properly, even uh, on the video screen later. So let's look at it. So we have about about 81 questions. And again, I see that within 81 also there are multiple questions are there. So obviously in almost a one and a half hour session, we will not be able to cover 81 questions. So uh, let's appreciate the questions. And if some of the questions are really thought provoking, we'll try to attempt and find some answers. Otherwise, we will keep moving forward. So at the speed of, maybe even one or two questions, or maybe one question every minute or something like that, approximately. So let's do this. So so in that sense, maybe we may drag this session a little bit more, since this is the last session in our course. Okay. So let's with that thing, let's begin with the first question. So let's see. One of the student has submitted. So there are several factors like security, privacy, financial viability, etc. While selecting wireless technology, how do I determine which wireless technology is best for smart grid operation? To put in different way, what should I look for when choosing right wireless technology for particular smart grid operation? How to overcome privacy, security concerns, and other issues which could hold back developments in smart grid for a smooth implementation of smart grid technology. Okay, so in general, this particular question focused on the communication technology in general, and within that wireless technology in particular. So for that, so again, this is a good question. I like this question. So we have to find what kind of communication requirements are there. What is the data rate? How much is the speed of data? How much is the quantity of data? Depending on that, whether what kind of technology will be suitable, where are the source, where is the source of the data, where is the destination of the data, etc. All these things needs to be considered. So the short answer to this question is how to determine which wireless. So it uh, depends on the application. So and the use case. So if I again go back to the series, the lectures, so I think if you refer to the lecture on architectures, so that might have this particular discussion on this, and also uh, lecture one about the overview of smart grid. So there also we talked about communications a little bit. So let's move to the next one. Will users be overloaded by decision making, and who will own the data? So this is again a very good question. So no explanation needed. Anyway, you can pause the video and read the explanation. Uh, Now, one important feature of smart grid will be integration with layers of software, uh, individual machines are there. Everything from industrial furnace to clothes dryer. Sorry. So a lot of new decisions, who will own the data again. One more important feature of smart grid will be integration with, okay, so I already read this. Smart grid proponents suggest it is someone will find value capturing it, who will claim it, become the application for machine learning, train a system by letting the observe your preferences. Okay, so who owns the data? So the short answer for that, who owns the data, is the whoever is generating the data, they own the data. That means in my house, whatever I am consuming my electricity data, I will be the owner of the data. I will be able to decide who who has access to this data. So, for example, I'm having a bank account. Now, how much money is there in my bank account? So that data is, I am the owner of the data. So if I want to disclose that information, I can disclose. That is my decision. So in a similar way, we will say that in when smart grid comes, the customer is the owner of the data. So, but then, as per the banking example, the bank, probably the bank manager also has the information about your data. So, in a similar way, the utility who is providing you the service may also know your data, but then these issues have to be addressed. Similar to, see, this problem of ownership, privacy, security, it is already been dealt with in the financial sector, in the retail sector, in the telecom sector, in various other sectors. So similar mechanisms have to be applied in the power sector to address this. Customer, I will say, is the owner and should be the owner. And to the other question, of course, machine learning, a lot of applications are there for machine learning. So it will be definitely, so those who are interested in that research, please jump into this. I myself am trying to collect data and work with some machine learning things in future. Okay, next. So it is proven fact that efficiency of PV or wind energy plant is maximum so and so 25 to 30 compared to of carbon based. Quite a few times we have discussed in the class that conventional generation systems will slowly be replaced. However, in order to enable same plant capacity of renewable source 180% of the existing setup, keeping in view the above facts, is it correct to advocate transition from non-renewable to renewable generation utilization? So again, is it economical? So it's a very good question. In short, if I summarize the question is about, if we speak about 100% renewables, shifting to complete renewables, what happens to the existing non-renewable sources? So the coal plants or whatever, so they will be operating until their life time exists. So for example, a thermal power station, let's say its lifetime is 50 years. So for 50 years it will continue, and after that it will not be it will not be uh, reconstructed, or a new plant will not be constructed. But then again, this is a still ongoing debate. A lot of developing countries are still investing in thermal plants, but then eventually the, the world will have to come to the conclusion about what is feasible, what is not feasible. So, in fact, if the coal supply is depleting, and you might have already noticed the cost of fossil fuels is gradually increasing. So, at one point, it may become more economical to invest in renewable energy, even if it is large, more capacity is needed. And with storage technology and all, we can address some of these issues. So the short answer for this is uh, future will tell. Okay, so let's go to next question. By the way,
Sir,
so yeah, Charan, you want to add something? Please
yeah. For
go
the
ahead.
previous question, sir. So
Yeah,
the one answer is like we can't completely rely on PV and wind because the uncertainty is too high, and obviously
yeah,
we need to have a complementing generations, thermal and all. Like if we say in the evening peaks and all, we can't meet that evening peak either with wind or with solar. So the
yeah.
evening for evening peaks we need a bit of thermal and a bit of hydel also. So that's why
Okay,
it will be more into complementing in nature.
and storage also.
Yes, sir.
So, no, but still there are some people who are advocating 100% renewable energy, but then it may not be possible.
Yes.
So we still need to rely on the conventional sources. So
Yes.
yeah, so again, as I said, time will tell. Yeah. So feel free, anybody, if you want to comment on it or you want to further ask a follow-up question, feel free to ask. Okay. Now, question number 5. Okay. So by the way, are you, I mean, is it boring or is it kind of useful?
Interesting, sir.
Yeah. So during integration of smart grid with its devices, such as installation of AMI, smart meter generally transmit bidirectional data. Now, if you assume typical consumer transmits average data of 10 GB in 1 month, considering lakhs of installed smart meters, one particular metro city, how can we apply principles of useful data extraction or data mining while consuming big data from various consumers, petabytes? How can we extract, model, and harness useful data related to smart grid infrastructure from big data set of available information? So, okay. Anyway, so this question is about the volume of data. Now, the assumption is 10 GB in 1 month. I still feel this is quite on higher level. See, what is the data? So, the data is only your power consumption data. Let's say you have appliances like, a smart fridge, a smart washing machine, whatever. Like, even if you take 100 appliances in your house, and even if you collect data every minute or whatever, uh, the volume of data may not be 10 GB in 1 month, because what you are collecting is a simple power consumption data in terms of, it's simple characters or bytes of data. For example, to represent the amount of voltage, it's a floating point number. So you require just 2 bytes enough to represent the voltage. So compare this to the photographs that we are taking. So the now you see that they are cameras with 41 megapixel camera or whatever like that. So each photograph itself will be in megabytes, right? And forget the photos, we have videos actually. We are doing a lot of video streaming also. A lot of people record video and upload the video to Google Drive or YouTube or whatever. So compared to the volume of data in terms of multimedia, that is photographs and videos, the data of these devices, that is smart meters and this whatever, like these things will be much less actually, because here we are only consuming. There is no video or there is no kind of audio or pictures or photographs involved. So if the problem, see, the problem of petabytes will come more in the social media domains, or in networking, in entertainment field, or that kind of fields. If they are able to solve the problem, then the power sector with lesser amount of data should also be able to solve the problem of the data. And then, of course, as we discussed earlier, data mining and AI and machine learning, huge amount of potential is there to analyze the power consumption patterns and suggest some savings. So this is my answer. So anybody want to add some more answer to this?
We can show the example of our CMS data, sir, where we haven't crossed not even a 3 GB in the 1 year, in the last 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I go back to CEMS, I'll just quickly show one this thing. See, as we discussed in I think lecture number 7, right? Yeah, lecture number 7 in this playlist. If you go, so close to about 207 like this, about 300 meters, you can round off to higher value. So from this 300 meters over last 1 year, we still did not get more than 3 GB of data, as Charan was telling. And of course, if we increase this thing also, it will be more high. So in that, this is a kind of comparison point. Yeah. So good. So the quick answer for this would be, the volume of data is much higher in other fields. So multimedia, social networking, etc. So solutions exist to handle it.
One more point, with the blockchain technology, Now most of the people are
Okay.
working on how to transmit the data so that we can have the effective data filtration at the source point itself, and
Okay.
take out the useful data. And using XML, obviously the size will be reduced, so they are transmitting the data in that technology.
Yes.
So
So
that's the
again,
other part.
yeah. So there are again a lot of technologies are available, like Charan is mentioning XML. So or any other data compression technologies and all, which will be able to address that. So okay. So without more losing more time, let's go. See, it's good that we got a lot of questions, so that's why I'm doing. And then apparently, I thought some of the questions will be trivial and we can skip, but so far all 5 questions are good. Probably this is in the ascending orders. I mean, the in the order of submission. So maybe later questions will be, submitted in a hurry and we may skip them. Let's see. After following the lectures, I was stuck with following doubts. We have discussed the importance of communications. So, can we achieve a continuous communication network? How efficiently manage the trade-off between time synchronization, reliability, latency, support for multicast, security, etc. And also, how can a massive amount of data produced by smart grid handle? How to value the use of grid in presence of renewable sources? Is it realistic to build cities close to renewable sources? Does the storage provide full solution? What is the significance in leveraging the need for private sector investment in the smart grid? So, good. Again, all 3 questions are good. The first question is about communication, that quality of service in communication technologies. So, again, depending on the functionality required, see, certain functions require absolute time synchronization and all these things, whereas certain other functions need not be. So, for example, you want to generate a monthly report or weekly report of your power consumption. So if a weekly report is delayed by 5-10 minutes or even 1 hour delay, it is also fine. So depending on the requirement, you have to design the communication capability, and we have to apply that kind of communication technology. So how to value the grid in presence of renewable resources? Of course, the renewable integration is itself one of the drivers for going to smart grid. Smart grid helps integration of renewable energy because renewable energy variations and all can be recorded and action can be taken. Now, cities close to renewable sources. In fact, renewable sources are spread across everywhere. That is one of the features of renewable energy. So, distributed, it's called DER, distributed renewable energy sources. So, yes, so each home will have a rooftop PV kind of thing. So, and all, and storage, definitely storage will provide a solution. So, all these things are evolving all over the world over many years, and still it is continuing, and private sector investment is also needed. So good. So all, I think we discussed this. So anything you want to add, any Charan or anybody?
No, sir. I think the time synchronization, PMUs are being used for
Yeah. So there is a time synchronization problem at the transmission level, the phasor measurement units. That is the most time critical kind of system. So you can see that. Okay. So here I will say private investment is needed and will be feasible. So if it is not already feasible, it will be definitely feasible also. Is there any, by the way, one of the lectures in our playlist, we discussed about cost benefit analysis. That is lecture 6. If you see, in that we are trying to make a case that rooftop PV is already cost effective. So like that. Okay, so let's go down. Is there any calculation of where we are right now in terms of smartness achieved in electric grid? If so, what is it on comparison with end goal? Is there any time estimate also given with regards to progress? So yeah, so Charan, you want to try this?
as far as now we are done, we are mainly focusing on the pilot projects. We are not at into the actual smart grid implementation. So now
Yeah,
all the state governments are releasing the regulations for smart meters, which
yeah.
which will be a move forward. So majorly for our reference, it could be Puducherry smart grid will be a good example. That's one of the good pilot project happened in India by Power Grid Corporation
Okay.
of India Limited.
Okay, so thank you. So what Charan has answered is the roadmap of India smart grid. We already that also we discussed. For example, if I go back, so the second session, and yeah, I think in this itself we discussed about where we are, in what stage we are, and so on. So, but across the world also, if you see, there is this smart grid maturity model. So this we did not discuss during the lectures, but if you search, so Carnegie Mellon University has developed this smart grid maturity model. So they have defined different levels, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. And under each level, there are some requirements. And if you meet that requirement, then you will say how smart is your this thing. So here you can see one diagram. So on the left, you can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the levels, and the orange one is the present scenario, and green is the future scenario. So from present scenario to future scenario, how you can evolve your smart grid. Okay, so this is the one of the things, and this is again one more how do utilities apply navigation results and all. So basically, this particular research group at Carnegie Mellon University, they developed this maturity model, and they have a series of 200 questions, I believe, 200 plus questions, and these questions have to be answered by the utilities, and based on the answers, they will assess. They will give a kind of grade or whatever, like where your present situation and where is your future situation. So I think beyond that, I will not add more in this. So let's jump to the further questions. Solar PV is to supply high inductive loads in case of off-grid scenario. What will be the structure of PV system? In case of grid-connected PV system also, is the above structure suitable for reactive power compensation? So again, this is a little bit of technical question coming to power engineering. So there is a active load and there's a reactive load also. So if there is a huge amount of reactive load, so in an isolated grid, can a PV system supply that? So to my knowledge, the answer is, because I am from power system, not from power electronics. To my knowledge, always the reactive sources like capacitor banks can be installed along with the PV system. And to an extent, even the inverter can also be controlled to provide some of the reactive support. Okay, so this is what my short answer. So yeah, so any other answer you want to add, Charan or anybody?
Yes, the PV systems can supply to a high inductive loads. Like we can see nowadays in farm motors. For example, Kisan Solar is a company which is implementing exclusively solar powered motors for farming. So motor itself is an inductive load. So what they are doing is that they are just like a transmission level reactive power compensation. They are doing a reactive power compensation on the load side with small solar plants islanded. So
Okay.
people
So
can
through
refer to
inverter
Kisan
control, you
Solar.
are saying, right?
Yes, sir, through
Through
inverter control.
inverter.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. And refer to Kisan.
Kisan Solar. Kisan Solar. It's a company.
So it's a company, so you can just refer to that. Okay. So let's come to the next one. What about cyber security? What are the threats to smart systems? Does smart grid make less secure or more secure? How can we ensure that our investments don't lag, because technology changes dramatically and more frequently? In the last exercise, we did solar panel discussion, which has a longer life, but what about the other smart systems, which will be updated more frequently? We are smartening the existing system, but what extent we can increase the quality of power? Okay, so the first one, what about cyber security? Yes, so cyber security is again a major research area, and a lot of people are now taking up this activity. Cyber security of your electrical assets. So if your see, earlier days, the transformer operation was not, like, it's not connected to internet or anything. So now if a transformer is remotely operated from a control center, and if somebody is able to connect to that, then then it can be hacked, and you can switch off the transformer from remote location. So these are all, definitely it's a problem. But then the solution to this problem is not moving backward and saying that no, we will not go to digitalized, remote control way. But the solution to this problem is to address the cyber security issues. And again, you can read about the Stuxnest or whatever. Like I'm not able to pronounce it. It's an attack which happened on a nuclear power plant in Israel, I think. So or Iran. I'm sorry for my lack of general knowledge on this subject, but anyway, so you can cyber attack on power plants. If you search like that, you will find a lot of information. So the one who has asked this question, if you are interested in going into research in cyber security, definitely there is a lot of scope. Coming to second one, about pace of technology. Yes, these things happens everywhere. So the hardware and software are there. So software is evolving much faster, and hardware is slightly slower. So you invest in hardware, and the software can be kind of revised every time, upgraded every time, and quality of power. Of course, quality of power as more and more power electronic devices. See, for example, LED lightings or DC power, and all these things kind of things are coming into picture. The power quality is suffering, but by proper regulation, by proper standards, we can address the power quality issues also. Okay, so these are my answers. So any answer you want to add, Sharon?
So mainly the smartness can increase more reliability, but the quality of power will depending on the type of load and type of equipments in the middle. Like
Okay.
as we all know that LEDs generate more harmonics, which will reduce the quality of power. So,
Okay.
but we can't control it with the smartness. By equipment itself, it has to be changed. So, like if we have certain filters which can improve the quality of power, but smartness is for more for flexibility and reliability.
Okay. So what in a way Charan is implying is that the purpose of smartness is not quality of power, but more about reliability and availability and cost efficiency, etc., etc. But then quality of power is also a problem that has to be addressed in the area of domain of power electronics and power systems. Okay. So power quality is also a research area. Okay, so let's continue. Question number 10. Uh, while doing assignment 3, I realized something. Although smart grid is cost-effective concept, specifically rooftop solar, it may not be viable for people who move to new place every year as a part of their job. So it is not attractive for them to do this. Secondly, many people stay in rented house. They cannot have their own setup and move it every time they go to new place. So what is the incentive for house owners to install rooftop solar? How can rooftop be made as attractive solution for this? Very interesting question. I mean, so far whatever I read, this I find it more practical, interesting question. So yeah. So Charan, can you take this question and followed by maybe
Yeah,
I will open it for discussion. For let's spend maybe more time for this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we can take the JNTU
How about
Hyderabad example.
how about renters and how about people who keep on transferring and
Yeah.
yeah. So go ahead.
So, like for example, we can take JNTU Hyderabad Kukatpalli, and they have the same campus in JNTU Sultanpur. JNTU Hyderabad Kukatpalli doesn't have any solar inside the campus, but they installed 4 megawatt plant in JNTU Sultanpur. So whatever the selling power there happened in Sultanpur is being deducted in the JNTU Hyderabad bill. Suppose if I am moving every year, if I have a land or some place in particular location, I can install there and I can sell the power to the grid. I need not to move the equipment. Still, the effective amount of me will be reducing. Since here it will be, suppose if I move from Andhra Pradesh to Telangana, so I had installed in Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh government is going to pay me the for selling of power, and I'll be buying the power in Telangana. So in a way, it is like that. And what else?
Yeah. So to summarize what Charan has said, see, you may be from let's say a state from Gujarat, and you are settled in South India. So you install your solar panels in Gujarat. and sell the power there. And now you are in, let's say, in Andhra or in Telangana, you can compensate it. So basically, the business model innovations are needed. So energy entrepreneurship.
Otherwise, they can participate in the open access markets. They can sell the power in the open access market based on the prices and all. Like the share prices, we can go for open access markets and sell the power where we have generated.
Yeah, yeah. So that is also there. And here is where the business models have to be evolved. Here is where you have to be think innovatively and do that. Okay. So I hope that answers the question. And see, I mean, I have another student. I think he's not here, Vikram. So if possible, maybe I'll just see if he's free. He can also join. So, see, there is an idea that, let's say there is an apartment building and there are 100 families living in apartment building. Out of 100 families, uh, 30 families are interested in rooftop solar investment. 70 families are not interested. Then we can form a local market actually. So the 30 families can invest in solar panels, and they can have a kind of sharing model, percentage sharing, and install a rooftop panel, and the power consumed by these owners of the PV will be free, whereas the power consumed by the other people who did not invest, they will be selling power to them, and the money generated by the 70 people um, can be shared among the owners. So just like you're building a house and giving the house for rent, you can build a PV panel and give the PV panel for rent. In fact, that is also a business model. See, if I have money and my neighbor don't have money but has a rooftop, so I will install a PV panel on his house, and he will pay me rent for using the PV panel. So all such kind of models are possible. Yeah. So any other
Like
ideas? Yeah.
like the one of the is saying that how to make it attractive. So already government is giving certain subsidy for those who are installing rooftop solar and all, like 20% or 30% on the installed, like based on the amount of installation, 20% subsidy is there. So considering the subsidy is one of the attractive point for the people.
Yeah. Okay. So where were we? Yeah. So see, the business model innovation also, as Charan was telling, policy, government policy also, or government invest.
Uh, Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but
No need to be say sorry. Yeah.
regarding the subsidy, I was the one who asked this question. So regarding the subsidy, when we were calculating it, even including the subsidy, the payback is quite longer. In some cases, it's 10 or 15 years, and
Okay.
like it's not that attractive if the payback is so long, right? Because some people may even sell their own building itself in 10 or 15 years. So in that case, setting it up to get that payback in such a longer time, it's not that attractive, right? Or even that. So
No, I mean the
Uh,
payback period is going to reduce. So you're saying 10 or 15 years, it may not be that high. And even see, it is an asset at the end of the day. So just like how you are selling a building, you will also say that this building cost is, let's say the building cost is 80 lakhs and the solar panel cost is 5 lakhs. So total cost is 85 lakhs. So you can sell the panel also once it is installed.
okay,
So
okay,
it's similar to selling a house with furnishing and all these things. So this is also like that. So you can
yeah, yeah,
see
makes sense.
there is a market for second hand cars and all. Similarly, there will be, you can also sell PV panels also. And if it is not a very, what you call, if it is cost effective, in future it may also happen that you will have a mobile PV panel where the fixtures can be kind of unscrewed and then transported and screwed on a different rooftop. So also, see, it's all at the end of the day business model innovation.
like our academic block, our 5 kilowatt solar is also like that, sir. It is easily movable. If you remember
Yeah,
that time, it was
yeah,
not allowed for drilling, so we made
yeah.
it very easily movable.
So I have a picture of it. I think let's see in this. So as an example, let me. So here, if you see, I'm sorry, go to the previous one. So the panels that you see on your screen, they're actually not bolted to the roof. They are just kept there with some kind of a basic, counterbalance or something. So these are actually movable. So this is a 5 kilowatt system. Normally, for a typical house, you have already done some analysis. So 2 kilowatt or 3 kilowatt is more than enough for a house, for a simple residential house. So you can just put it on a small truck and you can transport. Okay. Anyway, so that's about it. So let's and yeah. So thanks for this question. So of course, all questions are good. I'm not raising this only single question, but it looks a little bit more practical kind of question. Why cybersecurity is of prime importance in smart grid? How can it be achieved? Can you please suggest more? So already we discussed about this. So discussed above. So cyber security. So is another area of research. So it could be since it's a one grade course on smart grid, we are just touching the subject, but then one can go into the details. In smart grid project under NSGM named complete city excluding subdivision 5 under CED Chandigarh, how AMI, SCADA, all these things are functionally adopted and what are the benefits of those adopted functionalities. Also tell what can be done extra in the project for betterment in terms of operational efficiency. Okay, so I think you are referring to the National Smart Grid Mission and some kind of example city Chandigarh like that. Anyway, so coming to the technical part of the question, advanced metering infrastructure. So what it does, so it is automatic metering and it helps in more frequent metering, frequent meter data. So that is one. Next, what you are saying, SCADA. So SCADA, if you are having a distribution system and if you have a SCADA, so you can identify faults in real time. So if you don't have SCADA, you cannot do that. Next, what else is there? DMS. So distribution management system. It has this applications, distribution apps, and then what else we have? GIS. So self-explanatory, geographical information system. So mapping. So you can exactly map where the fault occurred and all this. So what can be done extra in this project for betterment in terms of operational efficiency? See, one of the sessions we discussed, there was an evolution of smart grid and there are like different stages. So DMS will be like ADMS is advanced DMS and then like that there is a kind of evolution. So you can refer to that. I think we discussed that in lecture number 5 in this course, smart distribution. So that will be covered. Okay, next. After reading such articles and previous lectures, cybersecurity in smart grid is going to be a big problem in future. How to overcome such all these things? The articles that made me think. Okay, so again, this is the same thing. So cybersecurity, and then so I'll say privacy is also one of the important topics. So just be aware of it. Can we install smart grid that can implicitly generate the electricity from the pressure exerted by the vehicles on the highway roads if it is economical, which in turn can be used for street lights, etc. Feasibility situation, we can install whenever the highways get repaired. It typically happens once in 5 years. And some reference is also there. Okay, so this topic is called energy harvesting. So if your energy requirement is very minimal, like, sensors or things like that, then you can do energy harvesting from environment. Now, see, there is, as you all know, energy cannot be, there is nothing like free energy. Energy will be converted from one form to the other form. So if you want to run street lights based on the energy extracted from electric vehicles or whatever vehicles moving on the road under the pressure and all these things, ultimately the energy required by the street lights will be derived from the fuel that is being consumed in the electric vehicle or a normal vehicle. So the energy has to come from somewhere. Then the question is, how efficient is it? How much is the losses? How much is the wastage? So if there is not much of wastage, then you can do that. But if it is too much wastage, then it is not good to do. Okay, so that is about energy harvesting.
Sir, just I want to add in this, particularly in this.
Okay. Yes,
Okay.
Sushant.
Yeah, sir. Actually, the concept here is piezoelectricity, in which pressure will be exerted in a piezo crystal and electricity will be generated. So, for the information, Bhutan has made a small stretch of road in which
Okay.
below the road metal they have put the piezo crystals, and when vehicle goes, so dynamic force is exerted on that one, and electricity produces that they are using as an arrow kind of thing, signal arrow left right kind of thing. And here
Okay.
sir, in India, so where there is a dynamic force, we can apply this. Many discos and all, there are the dance floor where the lights and all will be based on what we pressure exerted on the floor. So that is this concept piezoelectricity. But sir, it is in Indian road it is not being implemented.
Okay. Good. So already Sushant mentioned a case also where this kind of thing is done. And here also, I think some references link is there, so you can see that. Okay, coming to the next. Are there any smart grids with artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques integrated into it? If yes, then explain the model used in smart grid. If no, explain. So the answer is yes, definitely yes. Smart grids like machine learning AI has been used most of the places. So now, but then where it is used, how it is used, what model it is used. So again, you need to kind of search on your own. See, we touched upon it a little bit in this particular eighth session, research topics in smart grid. So you can go to any one of the what you call good research journal and then say AI and ML applications in smart grid. So then it will be you can find some information. We ourselves have done like from the data that we collected in the uh, from the building energy monitoring system in our building, we try to do k-means clustering and identify the similar types of patterns in the load. So that one k-means clustering algorithm we have used it. So anyway, so there are several applications of AI and machine learning in smart grid. So that is a point. So those who are interested, please, you can. There are a lot of opportunities also available also. Yeah. So shall we move to the next? So decentralization of power distribution and management in smart grid network. So include microgrid into such that the surplus net power production. Okay. So decentralization, hierarchical network. Okay. So if power balance is attained, surplus power is given to next higher level. If not, message is sent to the top level asking. So users, this will help us quick decision making. IEEE Explore. Okay, now comes the question. How can this be practically implemented? Is this feasible at this moment? Are the government laws open for such a system? Okay, so this is the first question. See, what I understood from this question is the whoever is asking this question has referred to one research paper, and the idea is that you have a network of networks, and within a network you try to match the generation and demand. If the generation is more, this small network will send power to higher network. Similarly, if the load is more and demand is the generation is less, then it will buy the power extra from the higher network. So yes, definitely it is going to evolve. The present grid is going to evolve into the network of networks. How it can be practically implemented? There are a lot of technologies. Again, peer-to-peer markets is there. That's what how like through smart grid we'll be able to implement by integrating communication technologies and the markets and all this handling of this data will make it possible. Now let's go to the next one, IoT and smart grid. So IoT and smart grid, let's see the question. Since the smart grid and IoT technology are now raising, is it this type of networking feasible or is it implemented anyway? Yes, again, the answer is yes. There are a lot of smart appliances. So yes, for both. there are a lot of smart appliances. IoT is again one of the major application area for even power sector. Smart appliances means programmable washing machines, the washing machine which responds to the grid prices, and when the price is less at the time, it will wash the clothes, things like that, within a given what you call given constraints. Okay, so yeah, so shall we move forward? We have about half an hour left. We'll try to address as many questions as possible in this half an hour. And yeah, so does blockchain technology make it easy to implement virtual energy storage? All these things, if yes, possible to maintain. Okay, how can AI be incorporated in smart grid? We can use AI for decision making. Third question. See, by the way, those who are seeing the video can always pause the video and read the question at your own pace. So I'm just skimming to the questions. How different is SCADA system from digital twin or cyber twin system? Is there any advantage of digital twin system using IoT over SCADA? Okay, so digital twin is some word where the physical world is as it is represented as a digital world in the digital world as a digital twin. So a SCADA is a more word used in power sector, supervisory control and data acquisition, and process industry and all these things. Whereas the digital twin is a term which is more modern term used in more in other domains. So basically, both are kind of similar. And the first two questions already we discussed. That is storage as a virtual market. So you store energy and you sell the stored energy at a different time. So for that you can use this blockchain technology, etc. Yes, the answer is yes. And how can AI be incorporated? Again, there are several examples where the AI has been used. So again, answer is yes. So okay, so I'm just giving short answers. Solar is energy is considered to be green, but when the solar panels are no longer in use, or even other electronics that are required to make systems smart, the amount of electronic waste would be a lot. How can we tackle that? Or there are methods that would take care of the e-waste. So there is something called life cycle cost. So you should not only in your estimates, you should not only consider the cost uh, cost at the time of operation and this thing. This is an important question. What about the electronic waste generated out of these panels? So there is already a lot of controversy also going on this. So people are saying that solar panels, on one hand, you are saying green and good for the environment, but on the other hand, they may prove to be more dangerous to the environment because of the materials used in the solar panel. So again, the answer is that you have to consider life cycle cost and you have to have proper waste management. Proper waste management systems in place. Okay? It's similar to how you deal with old mobile phones, how you deal with old computers, printers, laptops, etc., whatever are discarded. In fact, the life cycle of a computer is much less, probably 5 to 10 years maximum. And the computers are discarded. So, and they also may have some harmful electronics in it, etc. Anyway, so let's come to the 19th question. Very large volume of data. Okay, so the first question is about data. Immediately I picked it up. Second question, what are the government plans? How such large volume of data to be handled in secure? And we saw and analyzed how installing solar can save expenditure on electricity as well as efficient. Install the same in our campus at IIT, at least in residential blocks. Faculty or if possible, can the students contribute in any way in this for this development? Yeah. So again, good questions. The first question is about volume of data, which is already discussed, and the second question is about in a campus. Already, see, we said that our peak demand is 2.3 megawatt in our IIT Hyderabad campus, and the solar is 1 megawatt capacity. But then we can go for more actually. So we'll have to identify money and then go. And in cases where it is not possible to, like, there could be some kind of investment also. So see, it's very good that students want to contribute for campus power development and all. but then take it as a one kind of investment also. See, tomorrow you have money, for example. Instead of putting money in the bank, you can invest the money in some solar company, and those solar company does business, of installing solar panels and all these things, and then they will pay you some profit. So, consider, to answer to this, I will say consider PV industry as a source, uh, as a investment destination. So, where if the situation improves such that people may find it attractive even to invest in it. See, for your house, you may install a 5 kilowatt panel, and you may be 100% solar along with battery. You may not stop there. You may feel that I will invest in my neighbor's house also, and then slowly you may you may become an investor in the solar industry. So this kind of question, if you're asking, means in future you may become an investor. So good. Next one. Uh, while while following with the course, the material covered in the class, thinking about various barriers and possible solutions, I had following questions in mind. PV system rooftop. Okay, so I'm just trying to find the question. Is there any alternative so that we can make use of 100% solar power at the same time maintaining cost efficiency? Or can we say that it is not practical to use 100% solar power? See, what I'm thinking is, if you pair a solar power with a battery, then it is possible to go 100% solar, especially in remote villages. So where the access to grid is not there. So it may cost more to set up a transmission, power distribution infrastructure, get the power from very far away, kilometers away. The village may be very remote. So in that cases, a local PV system with a battery storage can it be by definition you're 100% solar. So it is possible. So again, you have to go for this thing. Now, let me once again look at the question. Air conditioner, electric stove, water heater consume large amount of power, which causes need for a higher power system. So now, see, the sun's energy into electricity only 15%. Yes, the PV panel energy conversion rate is only 15%, but the remaining 18% is actually not a loss in terms of you're not releasing that energy into this thing. If you don't put the panel, then 100% is kind of wasted. If you put the panel, you are extracting 15%. So think of it in that way. And yes, if you are having large air conditioners and water heaters, etc., then you can accordingly design the system, or you can go for more efficient use of your power. And even smart houses concept is also coming. Green houses, zero efficiency, or sorry, zero energy buildings. That kind of things are coming. So yes. So again, the answer is yes. Okay. So what about the question 2, which I missed? Smart grid introduced the concept of real-time monitoring of power consumption. Um, who will have access to data generated? How can these challenges be addressed? So by default, the owner of the data will be the consumer, but then the consumer can provide access and share the data with the utility or any third party who can do the analytics and give them the recommendations, and they can do that. So that is the kind of arrangement. So smart grid is, what is the third question? Smart grid is complete only when smart people. India, most people do not have awareness regarding peak hour loads and how they can make use of time of use tariff, etc. People in rural urban areas who are also not engineers, industrialists need to understand. See, ultimately, if you want to argue that people are not aware, the moment you have a uh, tariff attached to it, then immediately the prices are varying, then immediately people will become sensitive. So for example, take the telecom sector. If you say at night after 11 p.m., if you use the call rate is less, then even the people in rural areas, people without education also can understand that signal, and in the night they will make the phone calls to reduce their electricity bill. So eventually, if you link it to the tariff mechanism, even not so knowledgeable people will also start understanding. So that is my comment on it.
Like we can add
Yes, Kishore.
advertisements. The Ministry of Power can add advertisements saying that how effective it is through ads and all,
Yes,
making the people aware of this. Like
yes. In
I don't
fact, that
know.
is, yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know how many people are aware that in our two states itself, we have a tariff policy. If we are consuming monthly more than 500 units, and if we opt for smart meter, then there is a incentive in the night time period. Like 1 rupee reduction is there in both the states. Tariff
Okay.
policy it is there. So, but the people are not aware. Means that government has to give the advertisements and make the people aware of it, and then people will start using it.
Okay, so that's a good point Sharan has added. So in the state of Telangana and Andhra, apparently those who, even I am not aware of this, those who are consuming more than 500 units have the facility to opt for time of the use tariff. Eventually, the time of use tariff will come for even lower consumption customers also. So eventually, you will also see advertisements in TV related to time of the day tariff. Just like you see advertisements regarding smart appliances, advertisement regarding so many other things. Eventually, you will also find that. So some of you, if you are interested in entertainment field and you want to go into ad agencies and things like that, remember that you have done a smart grid course, and when any ad comes related to this smart grids or renewable energy, you are in a better position to guide the script writers or whatever. Okay, so question number 20. Whole idea of smart grid is to convert from traditional, which depend on remotely located power system, to modern grid, which will have distributed energy resources. Okay, so I'm just giving to the question. So just to compress the question to what we can. Okay, good. So the question is about natural disasters, the readiness to natural disasters. Okay, on one hand, you're saying smart grids and smart metering, communication, everything. And if in a natural disaster, if the communication network fails, then what? Okay, so the question is good. Even the answer is like, see, when there is a, you might have heard about this news also. When there was a major floods in Kerala state in the last year, there were some houses. Of course, the entire electrical infrastructure got damaged. All the electricity poles were grounded, and power was switched off everywhere. Everywhere darkness, except some houses they had solar panels, so they were able to switch on their lights and do something, because the solar panel generate, even when it is rainy and things like that, solar panel generated some power stored in a battery. And more importantly, the neighbors of that houses used to come to this house and charge their mobile phones, so that they could pass on the information that okay, we are so and so, we are alive and we are here and all this thing. So especially in the time of this thing, I just snooze notification. In the time of natural disasters, uh, having renewable energy distributed may be actually a lifesaver also. You can communicate and tell that, okay, I'm here and all. So that is one point. And another thing is the smart appliances we are seeing. The smart appliances can, in future, will come with this feature that they will also have a disaster protection. So, for example, smart TV we are saying. Now, what if there is a flood? So the TV should detect that there is a flood and there is some water coming, and then it should kind of on the spot can make some enclosure and then protect itself. Just like cars come with a airbags to, whenever there's an accident, the airbags will release with a safety feature. In future, also a lot of these appliances will also start getting this kind of safety features. So these are some of the points which I could add. So people are free to add any other comments on this. Disaster readiness.
Like for actually for the power sector, they'll be having a dedicated communication. So power sector won't rely on the communication that we generally use. They have their own specific optical fiber communication. So
Okay.
mostly they'll restore it fastly only.
Okay. Yeah. So that is, see, in fact, if you know Power Grid of India, actually, see, they lay the transmission towers, right? Power transmission towers network across different cities. Now, along with power lines, they also, on the same tower, they can also add a communication fiber optic cables. And in fact, the Power Grid of India gives the communication capacity on rent to telecom companies, so that the telecom companies are paying rent for using the communication network of the Power Grid. So such kind of cases are also there. Okay. So yeah, so disaster readiness. So question number 22, the common faults which occur in the distribution system are line to ground faults, which occur mostly due to harsh weather conditions and partly due to faulty equipment. Uh, shouldn't smart grid developers support such systems where, even though more expensive, more reliable, and less dangerous, or there are other major problems with underground power distribution? Yes. So, so the question is about reliability and over the head transmission versus underground cables. Yes. So at places where you are able to invest, underground cables are being definitely used, and it's a kind of cost benefit analysis. So underground cable is probably more than like 10 to 20 times more costly than overhead cables. So where the application is critical and you want to have a very reliable network, then we should use the underground cables. Okay, what are the savings done through smart grid big data analytics in 1 year, and how? I am asking question. I have seen the smart grid data analysis based on data science and very advanced topics seen nowadays. Okay, so the question is about savings due to analytics. So again, the concept is called load shifting or peak shifting, scheduling, scheduling the loads. Uh, so it so by doing this, you can achieve saving. So the prices may be vary at different types of time. At the peak time, the price is high. Then that load shifting you have to do, not physical shifting, but shifting across the time. Instead of washing clothes, or instead of filling your water pump during the peak period, you can schedule that during the off peak period, and then you can make the saving. So all that decisions can be taken by ML and AI. That means what appliance to operate at what time, so that your energy bill is reduced. So it's kind of a optimization problem which can be addressed. Okay, next 24th question. To what extent or how smart grid technologies contribute in effective synchronization of alternators at generation station? How does improvement of standards in 5G reflect in development of smart grid? How smart grid technologies are more effective in reducing the power theft problem? Okay, so the answer to the first one is related to uh, power system stability. So yes, as some time back we discussed the wide area measurement system, WAMs, and PMUs, phasor measurement units. They help in you know addressing the stability problem. So refer to PMU/WAMs. So that is for the first one, and for the second one, 5G communication. So if I understand, 5G is mainly having the application in entertainment industry, with video streaming and things like that. But then if a again depends on the this thing. So typically the data rates in the power sector are less than the other domains, but still 5G adoption, based on the need. So third one, power theft problem, obviously. So you can have a real-time monitoring. So the moment some power theft is happening, you can you can have algorithms detect that, and you can identify that. Yeah. So so that's it. So let's go to the next one. Security of smart grid. Since smart grid technology involves processing of information from smart meters, readings can be disaggregated different appliances using device signatures. For example, in case of microgrid, okay, so this is an example. Should we use a more localized system for information processing layer, or would this limit? Okay, so good. The question is about uh, we have a layered architecture. We have the physical devices, then we have the sensors, then communication network, and there is a information processing layer. Now, the information processing layer can itself be distributed. So, refer to what is called as distributed intelligence and multi-agent system. Okay, so such kind of technologies. See, certain decisions the central decision maker need not take. Certain decisions you can take locally. So the example that is given here is like microgrid used in airports or microgrids in a local these things. So all the things and disaggregation of your demands, all the things can be done at the local level also. So that is again the answer is yes. So it can be done, and you can refer to these topics. Okay, so we still have about 5-10 minutes left. So let's try to address some more questions. Doesn't the cost or consumption of electricity increase due to new server maintenance cost and also continuous power consumption by the grid for updating the information? Okay, so increase in the cost. So yes, the cost will increase. So the increased cost will be compensated by the benefits. So, for example, so let's say you have 500 customers in a locality, and you have hired meter readers. So one meter reader cannot read all the 500 meters in a very short time. So you might have hired 5 people, and you might be giving them salary of 10,000 rupees per month, making the cost 50,000. So now by AM, and they will take one reading per 1 month. Whereas by installing in this AMI AMR technology, uh, probably the initial investment cost may be more, but then the maintenance cost will be definitely less than 50,000 per month, and your data rates will be much higher. So yes, the answer is the cost will increase, but then the benefits will be much more higher. I hope that answers the question. Question number 27. What extra things we should do to achieve Internet of Energy from smart grid? What are the difference between them? What is the current situation of Internet of Energy in the world? Okay, what is this Internet of Energy? So you send an email from email ID X to email ID Y. Similarly, you can send a packet of energy saying that I want to sell 10 kilowatt hours of energy from my house to my friend's house, which is located some other location, and then you submit the transaction, and automatically the energy will be delivered to that particular house. So that is called Internet of Energy. So of course, the way in which I literally explained, it may not happen, but then something similar can happen where there is energy market. So you have a battery in your house, you store the energy, you can sell it to whoever you want, and that kind of peer-to-peer energy market. So these are all under evolving, and definitely in future it will come. But definitely this is the right time to worry about it, think about it, and develop knowledge about it. So that is about the Internet of Energy. And when we use inverter in rooftop PV system, there are huge losses due to DC and AC conversion, and again AC to DC conversion. How can we use LVDC microgrids to minimize losses? So again, the solar PV generates the energy in DC. So there is a DC network also possible, and some of the DC appliances are also coming into picture. So in future, consumption will be combination of AC plus DC. So there is a famous war of currents. So between the Thomas Alva Edison and Nikola Tesla, and they are having which is better, DC is better or AC is better, respectively, in the names which I am saying. So now finally the answer in the future, maybe both are good. There are advantages of AC, there are advantages of DC. Combining these two, we need to design a particular energy system which can have part of the thing will be in AC and part will be in DC. Okay, so we all are using smart grid in consumer end, but how can we do it in the production end while producing electricity? What are the challenges that distribution system operators are facing in smart grid environment? Are there any methods to improve the power quality on the same? Okay, so there are some good questions. See, again, the question assumes that smart grid, like the structure is producer is in one end and consumer is in the other end. But actually, the consumer and producer are now getting mixed. So the smart grid is there at both the ends. So if I install a rooftop PV on my solar, then I become the producer also and consumer also. So therefore, the smart grid is there at both ends. And how it can help? So again, that is again up to you, to your imagination, your innovation, how you can use smart grid technology. So always find the problem that is there in the physical, like in the traditional system, and how you can address the problem using this layered approach of having sensors, communication network, and technology. Okay, so like that. So I'll write it here, prosumer technology. Okay, so let's take two more questions. So that is question number 29. How can we ensure? Yeah. So how can we ensure that smart grid investment can avoid obsolescence? How can the smart grids would be? See, the first one I already answered. How can you ensure that things will not become obsolete? See, the softwares keep updating. On your phone, the apps keep changing, but the phone will remain same. So like that, in smart grid also, the smart meter will be smart meter. It will collect the data as per this thing. Whereas this, what you do with the smart meter data, the apps, more and more new apps will be coming into future, in future. So that is one strategy to address the obsolescence problem. How can smart grid able to shape the sustainable policies in a large democracy like India? So again, the approach has to be top down and bottom up both. And when the cost effectiveness becomes automatic, immediately the switchover happens. We don't have to engineer it in a centralized way. If people realize that so and so technology is cost effective, immediately people will shift to that particular technology. So in the meanwhile, the challenge is developing research and making the technology cost less and spreading the awareness. So by spreading the awareness, that is what I'm trying to do, introducing the smart grid course at BTech level, so that by the time you finish your BTech and you go into your real world, at that time, this will be useful for you to plan your respective smart grid implementations in your house. Is it possible to make smart grid architecture less compact and more economically viable? Of course, yes. Is more transparency in smart grid can lead to less security of. So this transparency and security are actually not directly related. If something is transparent, it does not mean something is less secure. So again, there are methods to address this. Cybersecurity already we discussed. What revolutionary change that can be made by smart grid in big sectors like agriculture and small sectors like MSME? So of course, the entire agriculture, the drip irrigation, and then so the PV based energy generation, all the things it is making a lot of changes. And MSME means the medium and small scale manufacturing and plants and these things. So there also smart technologies will reduce a lot of wastage. So in fact, this energy monitoring, campus energy monitoring example which I have given, that can be implemented in every factory, and energy wastage can be reduced significantly. how long will it take to change into entire smart grid in our country and around the world? So the answer to this question is in your hands. So you are the people who are learning this. So how fast you are willing to work and make the smart grid in our country and around the world, that fast it will come. So electric vehicles are coming. Everything is integrated into grid and so on. So 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 up to you. So you have to answer. Okay, so on that note, maybe we'll just since we crossed 5:30, so we'll pause here. And good that we could not even complete 50% of questions. There are a lot of questions, so therefore, obviously, I will do one more session like this sometime. And although only I thought of doing this as the last session, but since we could not cover all these questions, looks like all are interesting questions. So we'll spend some time more and similar way. I'll just send you the schedule. So those interested can join live, and those not interested can see the YouTube video. Okay, so before I end, let's spend last 5 minutes by just share your thoughts. Anybody is free to come up and so that we will end it after that. Yeah. So any points anybody wants to ask? So a lot of students might have missed their questions actually today. Because I started in a first come first serve basis. Those who submitted questions first, their questions have been addressed. But yeah, we'll go in future the other questions also. By the way, I'll keep slowly scrolling so that the video is recorded and people can pause and read the questions also. Yeah. Anyway, so meanwhile, Charan or Sushant or anybody else, you want to add some things to this? Please feel free. Any advice or any comments?
I think this session is fine, sir. Like by addressing more questions with question and answer, they learn more rather than the continuous class one way of teaching. This is a two way of teaching. So a few
That's what I
questions,
was
somebody.
see from the beginning. I was always saying, ask questions, ask questions. Nobody asked questions. And the moment I said the final exam will be, I'll give you a blank paper, you write questions and give me, I got these questions. So this interest you should have before only. I should not force you to ask questions. Okay, anyway, so yeah. Anything else? So I'm just scrolling the questions so that you can pause the video and you can read the question and you can think about it. These are something, see, asking the questions itself is a very good skill. Even if you don't know the answer, if you have the question, it will be good. If you are able to ask the intelligent questions, it is good. Yeah, so any other observations, any other points? So far, whoever questions have been answered, are you satisfied or anything additional questions you want to ask? Follow up you want to do?
No, sir.
So by the way, so what I'll do, I'll also share this particular Google Sheet. Link I will share in the description. So you can also go to this link and then have a look at these questions. Does smart grid play a main role in traffic controlling systems? So as of now, I know it doesn't play. Smart grid is different, traffic is different, but in future it may be integrated. So that concept is called smart city anyway. So I'm just scrolling for more questions. So question 61. So when I again teach this course next time, definitely these questions will help me in reformulating the contents. And by the way, whatever these things are recorded, they will be there next year also. So I will be doing new subjects or new topics next year on the lines of these questions. So that will be good. So just because you are finishing this course this year, don't think that things are done. So you may again, since you are anyway subscribed to my YouTube channel, so if any updates are there on this playlist, you'll come to know, so that you can keep yourself updated. So I'm just roughly seeing the questions. So good. I think we have come to the end of the questions. So some questions have been answered. Some questions have still not been answered. So we'll come back to it. So we have this Q&A. So maybe I'll just copy paste one more Q&A. Q&A-1. And yeah, so let's conclude this session here. So we'll in future we'll again meet. I'll send you the schedule. Okay. So is that fine? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining this session. I hope it was useful.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.